This episode of the ResortLoop.com podcast is brought to you by Joffrey's Coffee and Tea Company. Joffrey's is proud to be the official specialty coffee of Disney. Enjoy drinks and pastries at Joffrey's kiosks throughout the parks and check out the Disney Specialty Coffee Collection only at Joffreys.com.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World local monorail system. During the trip, we ask that you remain seated and please refrain from smoking while on board. Thank you. Our next stop is the towering Contemporary Resort Hotel.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. This is ResortLoop.com. I'm Tim Scott.
I'm Bob Collar.
This is episode 235, and this show has a major announcement that many people have been waiting for a very long time.
It's going to be a huge, huge show. We've had a couple of fantastic guests the last couple of shows, and a maybe even more fantastic guest this show, Tim. But before we get started, may I do a This Day in Disney History?
I would be upset if you did not.
This kind of ties in a little bit with the guest that we have today.
Oh, very nice.
In 1998, my friend. This is big for you, too.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
What happened? I'm just going to throw this out to you real quick. We never do it this way, but what happened in 1998 in Disney history? What can you think?
Let's see. There was a line at the Haunted Mansion. I remember being in that. And it was hot. It was July. It was hot and humid.
It was hot. It was hot in the Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
Summer of 98. Right. Actually, in 1998, my friend, Disney's first cruise ship, the Magic, is christened by Patricia Disney, Roy E. Disney's wife, in Florida.
Oh, how cool is that?
Now, the Magic set sail after the christening. It set sail with a star-studded manifest that included, are you ready for this? Star Wars director George Lucas.
Ooh.
Who knew?
Foreshadowing.
Exactly. San Antonio Spurs center David Robinson.
Oh,
and
Admiral.
Country singer Travis Tritt.
On
a 2-day trip to Disney's private island in the Bahamas. Of course, Castaway Cay.
Yes, how fantastic is that?
So that is, that's kind of cool. That was This Day in Disney history back in 1998. Kind of ties in with our guest today and good friend of the show. Will you introduce him, Tim?
It would be my honor joining us today for a couple of what I think are major announcements from Joffrey's Coffee, Chris DeMezzo. Chris, thanks for joining us on the show.
Hi, guys. How are you today?
We are fantastic. Not to speak for Bob, but I think he's fantastic as well.
I'm doing better now that I'm talking with you, Chris. How are you?
I'm great, but hey, I got to tell you something. On this day in Disney history, yours truly was inside the terminal making espresso drinks for this A-list guest that you're talking about, and the only one I met that night was Bobby V.
How about
Get
that?
out!
Not Bobby V, Dickie V, the sportscaster.
Yeah.
But we were there in the cruise line terminal. We had set up about 4 or 5 mobile espresso stations to make coffee for the guests. I remember watching the ship set sail. They did a little circle out there in the bay and shot off fireworks. It was a very, very neat experience. But I did not meet any of those fancy A-listers. Dickie V came by and said hi, which was nice. But
that's cool.
Wow. How about that?
Who knew that when you came up with that day in history?
I had no idea.
When you said, I was like, we were there. Myself and about 12 other cast members were there working that night.
How about that? How cool is that?
That was quite an affair.
Awesome.
So I mean, potentially, George Lucas may have had some of your coffee that day.
What? Very well could be.
There you go.
I mean, if he stood in front of me, but probably.
You'd recognize him with the lightsaber.
Yeah, really.
That humming noise.
The stormtroopers behind him.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, listen, Chris, you have we might as well let you say it. You had something very special happen last week with Joffrey's Coffee, something everybody's been looking for quite a while. You want to tell us about that?
Well, finally, after about 3 years in development, we have finally debuted our K-Cup line. It was a labor of love. A lot of work to find the right company to partner with to be able to produce these cups. But I can say it was well worth the wait because coming from somebody who's as picky about their coffee as I am, I couldn't be more pleased with the way the product turned out. It's a really, really good cup of coffee being produced in a single cup format. We have our Divine Donut, which is one of my favorite coffees. Our Breakfast Blend, another great coffee. Our French Roast, for those of you that like a little bit of a darker roast. And two of our most popular flavors are Jamaican Me Crazy, the caramel, Kahlua, and vanilla, and our Angel's Kiss, which is a chocolate coconut. And then for those of you that like to sleep at night, we have our Cafe Blend Decaf available in a K-Cup. And then
Now
launched, I believe, what's today? Thursday? They went online Tuesday, I believe.
Yes.
Right. Now, the French roast, is that the French roast that we'll find in the Disney resorts in the rooms?
Very, very similar.
Okay.
Very similar. That one is the French Bistro.
Oh, that's right.
And that one will be probably another 2 to 3 months before that one will come out. This is the first wave. That'll be the second wave.
Gotcha.
I'm excited that the Jamaican Me Crazy is one of your first ones.
The Jamaican Me Crazy is our number one selling flavored coffee. We'll sell 10 pounds of that to every 1 pound of every other type of, kind of flavor.
Oh.
And that, I think part of it's the name just sounds kind of cool, but the aroma of that coffee, people, if you're brewing at, I like to use that at trade shows. So I'll just start brewing that coffee, and people will come from the other side of the room and walk over, and they're like standing in front of me, like, I don't drink coffee. I'm like, then what'd you come over for? I smell. I couldn't resist it. I just followed my nose.
Right.
And believe it or not, after you smell it for a while, well, let me just try it.
Exactly.
And then, this isn't bad.
It's one of my favorite ones to make in the house for that very reason.
Oh, God. We have people that buy it, and they make desserts with it. I mean, it's they bake with it. There's a Jamaican Me Crazy coffee cake that,
Ooh.
That woman, when she comes by, it's dangerous. I just can't stop.
Wow.
But it's a really, really good flavor. And I mean, I tell you, we've been probably doing that flavor for, over 10 years now. And I could tell you, I think maybe I can count on one hand the amount of people that I've ever sampled that to that said, I don't really care for it. It's just one of those, it's like your utility player. Everybody just likes it.
Absolutely.
You gotta love when that happens.
It's like the George Clooney of coffee.
There you go. There you go. Young or old, it doesn't matter. We love it.
Tim tries to squeeze in George Clooney in every episode now. I don't know what that's all about.
There we go way back.
I got to say, I'm looking at the prices, and we're not going to get into what the pricing is, but because it's going to change with the discounts that are available, which, by the way, everybody in Looper Nation, right now you got a 15% discount on the K-Cups. Short time, though, so you want to get on that if you're going to get some of the K-Cups and try those. But really, the prices are very comparable to, any of the retail stores out there, and just kind of the regular coffee that you can get, any of the normal coffee, and a little bit cheaper than that place up in Seattle, Washington. I can never remember the name of that coffee place. We don't care about that.
But these are good size boxes. These, the small ones are 18, have 18 in a package.
Right.
Sometimes you're only 12 or 14.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The prices, and you know, Tim, because we both buy, used to buy regular K-Cups.
It's over.
That's over. Yeah. Some great prices. And you have the discount going until August 3rd, I believe. Is that right, Chris?
Believe so, yes.
Yeah. So make sure you guys jump on that because, man, that's going to be a great deal, and got to try those K-Cups. Now, when, Chris, are those going to be available, or are they going to be available in the rooms at the Disney resorts?
The K-Cups?
Yeah.
That's a work in progress. Those are in a development stage, as far as to my understanding.
Right.
For the foreseeable future, they'll be continuing to use the pods that they've been using.
Okay.
All right. That's good to know.
Well, you've had more than coffee even going on now. You got a new tea thing going on.
Oh yes.
What's up at Downtown Disney?
I used to tease you guys about, I know a little bit about tea. I know a little bit more about tea now. I know a lot more about tea now. We've called ourselves a coffee and tea company for a long time, and we've always kind of done tea, but it was almost, it was like, I guess we kind of have to do tea because we're a coffee and tea company. And then we had an opportunity to open a tea cart in Animal Kingdom. And that was maybe 8 years ago. So that's when I, first kind of got exposed to tea, and it was, mostly a grab and go. So you're kind of limited to what you can do. But, like everything, I wanted to offer our guests as wide a variety of teas as we possibly could, and prepare them as best we could, given, the confines of what we had to operate in. So we did a pretty decent job. And then when the Downtown Disney, which soon to be Disney Springs, opportunity arose, we got contacted by our partners at Disney and said, would you guys be interested in doing a tea store down there? So, tea's becoming so popular. Tea now is what specialty coffee was when I started doing this 30 years ago, in its infancy. And every day, tea's becoming more and more mainstream and more popular. So naturally, when we had this opportunity, I was like, yeah, let's go for it. And it's, for Joffrey's, it's going in a little bit of a different direction because it's only tea. So when we had this opportunity, my partner Ted and myself went and met with the design team, the ones that were putting the concept development team, I guess you would call them, and decided to, we had a meeting with them and we talked about what we would want, what they would look for, what we could offer. And of course, me being the geek, always wanted to give the best experience that I possibly can. I said, let's make it as interesting and interactive as we possibly can. Let's design it so we can interact with the guests and, let them experience, the tea firsthand rather than just handing a cup over the counter. So they're like, oh, what do you have in mind? I said, what I would like to do is get some of my cast members and take them under my wing and train them to be tea smiths. And they're like, a tea smith? What's a tea smith? I said, a tea smith is somebody that actually blends and flavors the teas and adds the ingredients. And, you could sit down and actually create a blend of tea and then sit down and cup it. And, Disney was like, wow, because they're all about that, interaction and the experience. They were all over it. I said, great. So, I said, okay, let's take it to the next level. So, of course, Chris gets back in his car. He's driving back down I-4 towards Tampa going, okay, what did you just do, idiot? you just sold him on a dream, and now you got to produce it.
You got to come through, right? So, Chris,
So, what we did was get some of my cast members and take them under my wing and train them to be tea smiths. And, they were all about that, interaction and the experience. They were all over it. I said, great. So, of course, Chris gets back in his car. He's driving back down I-4 towards Tampa going, okay, what did you just do, idiot? you just sold him on a dream, and now you got to produce it.
got to come through, right?
you know me, being the geek that I am and wanting to do the best job I possibly can, I immediately said, okay, I know, like I told you before, and I was kind of telling it, I know a little bit about tea, enough to get in trouble, but now it's time to take it to the next level. So there just happened to be a annual Who's Who of Tea show, World Tea Expo, going on in California. And I said, okay, I need to get myself out there. And just like I did with coffee, I need to surround myself with some experts in the field and get myself up to speed on tea. I'll never be right away as, familiar with tea as I am coffee. But then I've been doing coffee for 30 years. Tea's, 8 years and only about 5 months real serious. So I did go to this, and I took a one-day crash course of going to each. You spend 2 hours in 5 origin-producing countries like China, Japan, Sri Lanka, India, of course, and you tasted all the different teas that they produce from the different regions. And for somebody like me that's a cupper, you really get a lot out of that. You got to see the different nuances of the different teas. And it was like an epiphany. It was like this awakening. It was like discovering coffee all over again. Because I'm all about tasting different things. And to me, how different things can taste differently from the same region, because one guy does it this way and one guy does it that way. Most people would be asleep, and I'm there like, wow, this is great. How did you get that to do that? I got, and I just sat there and I just peppered these people with questions, and suddenly realized that, what I had thought I had been doing really well, I wasn't. And there was a lot of room for improvement. So I made a lot of connections and did a lot of homework, and was able to put together a pretty good array of some really, really good teas. I partnered up with a couple of people that are very well known and respected in the tea business, that have always direct contact with the producer, which means that they deal directly with the tea farmers, the tea producers, the tea gardens themselves, so that if I have any questions or I want to know exactly what process and everything that's going on, I have access to that information. We exchange pictures. So I sat down and I totally revamped our tea program into something that I'm actually extremely proud of. And the reward for me is when we opened up on July 3rd, when we opened up to the public, the overall response was the same for our tea as it is for our coffee, which to me is, what I do this for.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful, yeah.
I've put together a couple of different unique blends. I've got, believe it or not, a root beer, an herbal tea that smells and tastes like root beer, that you can drink hot. And I also make a root beer float tea latte. My soon-to-be world-famous masala chai tea latte, and just some really, really good, straight green tea, some senchus from Japan, a golden monkey from China, a silver needle white, you name it, all the, teas that you would expect to find in a good quality tea house. And like I said, we have a little bar section there, and there's a little area carved out for the teasmith, and you can actually, when we're in the store blending, you actually sit down and you can watch the teasmith take the ingredients down and actually put the teas in there and added ingredients and blend that tea, and then actually sit down and Gung Fu brew, which is pouring a little tiny leaf in a cup and sampling out that tea that we just made right there on the spot.
That is very cool. And you guys are over, Disney treated you pretty good, I think, with the location. You're over by the boathouse, right?
Correct. Directly across. Very, very good spot. Very, very happy.
Yeah, you guys, we got to talk about the spirited beverages.
Oh, I was just going to bring that up. Both hot and cold.
Well, why are we thinking the same on that note there, Tim?
I'm not sure, but I find that very funny.
It's about, what is it, about 12 minutes before 5? Maybe that has something?
that could be. Oh, my goodness.
I am very interested in the Joffrey's Whiskey Sour. That sounds really good.
Oh, and that Raspberry Delight.
Oh, yeah, that looks good, too. Yeah. My goodness.
I got to be honest with you, that I have to give the credit to those drinks to our Vice President of Operations, Brian Williams. I'm not a drinker. I'm my coffee and tea. So Brian is the one that came up with the recipes for the frozen and the spirited beverages, hot and cold.
Wow, very good.
People love them.
I'll bet they do. Yeah, they sound fantastic.
On a hot day, which, oh my God, that July 4th weekend was hot. The tea, oh God, they're going to kill me for not knowing the name. Tea Breeze, I believe it's called, with the lemonade. That one was a big hit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Fresh brewed iced tea with frozen lemonade topped with Grey Goose vodka.
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
That sounds pretty good.
That's the one. That was a very popular drink that weekend.
Wow.
That sounds very nice. I like, on one of those very rare, cool Florida mornings, the orange spice sounds really good to me. That's a fresh brewed orange spice tea topped with Captain Morgan's spiced rum. That sounds pretty good as well.
A couple of happy pirates walking around that weekend.
Arr.
I'll bet they were. But you guys, you got the spirited beverages, which is fun for us. But you got black teas, green teas, the oolong teas, white teas. What are white teas?
White teas are the least processed teas that there are, and all teas basically are coming off the same plant, which is Camellia sinensis. And what makes a tea white, green, oolong, or black is the processing method. All teas are pretty much basically processed the same. The leaf is plucked, and then it's withered, which is just letting it sit and the moisture remove a little bit. And then if you were to make a green tea, what you would do is you would let the tea wither for a short period of time, and then you have to kill the enzymes to stop the oxidation and keep the leaf green. It was just like if you were trimming your hedges at home. When you cut the clippings fall on the ground and you walk away and you go inside and eat lunch and you come back out, you see the leaf is starting to curl. Mm-hmm. Well, if you left those things overnight and came back the next day, they wouldn't be green anymore, they'd be brown. So picture tea kind of doing the same thing. So to make a green tea, what you do is you wither the tea, but then you want to stop that process. So you have to introduce heat, and heat will kill the enzymes. So in Japan, one of the most common ways of doing it is to steam the tea. And also in some countries, they pan fire it in like a giant wok. And all you're doing is you're introducing heat, which kills the enzymes and stops that tea from oxidizing. So that's what'll keep that tea green.
Oh.
For an oolong, you would do the same process, only an oolong is half green and half black. So you would pluck, you would wither, and then you would let the tea oxidize. And then depending on how dark an oolong you want, there's oolongs that, let's say, are 30% oxidized, which in the cup will resemble more green tea than black. And then there's oolongs that tend to go on the darker side, which let's say it's a 70% oxidation. And then in the cup, that would look a little bit more along the lines of a black tea versus a green tea. I love oolongs because they're very multi-dimensional. You get so many different flavor profiles out of it because of that processing method. You get a little bit of the best of both worlds. You get a little bit of the green and you get a little bit of the black. Taiwan is famous for making some really, really good oolongs. And then the black tea is, you're going through the same thing. You're plucking, you're withering, but you let that tea now fully oxidize. So that leaf changes from green to yellow to dark brown, which is what we call a black tea. And then the leaf is dried. With a white tea, to answer your original question that you asked me 10 minutes ago, all they do is basically pluck it and dry it. There's really no processing. Mm-hmm. So you're getting everybody's heard the expression, 2 leaves in a bud. That's basically what you're getting. You're getting the brand new growth, and it's the most minimally processed tea of all. Now, all teas, everybody's asked this question. Oh, is there less caffeine in it? All teas have the same amount of caffeine. Doesn't matter. Tea is tea.
Huh.
I ask you, what tea is good for you? I always answer them, the tea you drink. Tea is good for you. And then the last question is, what has more caffeine, coffee or tea? By volume, by weight volume, if you took a pound of tea and a pound of coffee, there's more caffeine in the pound of tea.
Really?
Yes, but out of a pound of tea, you're getting over 200 cups easily. But out of the coffee, you're not getting anywhere near that amount.
Oh, okay.
So the amount per serving, you're getting more caffeine in your cup of coffee than you're getting in your cup of tea. So it's kind of misleading.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But there's your useless coffee and tea trivia for today, John.
Oh, I don't think it's useless at all.
No, not at all.
I think people are going to love this Tea Traders Cafe.
It is. I couldn't be more pleased. Like I said, the guest reaction tells us that I think we went in the right direction. It's nice because you get to come in and sit down. If you want to grab a cup and go, you can. But if you want to sit down and interact with one of our tea smiths, you're able to sit down at that counter and watch. And we're more than happy. We brew these little tiny samples at a time and sit there and let you sample and talk to you and tell you about the tea that you're drinking, which is what, tea drinkers are a little different than coffee drinkers. Coffee drinkers are grab a cup of Joe and go. And tea drinkers want to engage with you. They like that. They want to talk about where the tea came from, tell you what they're getting out of the cup. And, if you're unlucky enough to get something like me that's going to talk your ear off and tell you, well, this is what you should be getting out of that because this has got the... And
hey, you know what though? Really, and everybody, I'm sure. I mean, Tim and I can hear the passion in your voice about what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
It's always been there for coffee, but man, you really know your tea now, and the passion's coming out again with that. I feel bad for your wife. I got to meet your wife when I came down and visited because it sounds to me like you're going to be adding on some frequent flyer miles, going to now all these places that have tea available for you as well.
Leaving shortly for Peru and going to do my first multi-trip. Coffee for half of the trip and tea for the next half.
Oh, how cool is that?
And don't feel sorry for my wife because my wife is married to the Roastmaster and she's an avid tea drinker.
Oh, okay. So she's liking this.
She's my biggest fan or my biggest critic.
There you go.
Hey, Chris, before we go, can you tell us about getting back to coffee? Can you tell us about your new quarterly coffee?
Yes.
These are my favorite story. I love hearing about the quarterlies.
Oh, yeah.
This is a coffee that on my trip to Honduras found a little Comsa, which is a really nice little co-op that we've been going to visit in the Marcala region of Honduras, which you fly into San Pedro Sula, and then you take this very uncomfortable 4-hour bus ride up into the mountains. And it's a little organic co-op producers. We don't market it as organic, but it is an organic coffee.
Okay.
And, these guys are some of the nicest people that you've ever worked with. And, you know, a lot of times you go and you meet with producers and, you know, you tell them what you'd like to see and, you know, what they should maybe try so that improve the quality, you know, what us roasters would like to see. And a lot of times, you know, they'll nod their head and they'll, yeah, you know, what are you going to buy this year? And then these are guys that actually sit down and, you know, they're staring intently into your eyes and they're taking in every word, they're taking notes. And these guys actually do what they say they're going to do. And every year they just, you know, hey, we did something we want you to try. And they've always got 2 or 3 things that they went ahead and tried. And, you know, kind of like what we do here, they'll take it to the next level on their own without us telling them. And, you know, the results sometimes are just amazing. And what we've got now is we've got one of my favorite, which is the natural process, where the mucilage is left on during the drying process, which gives that coffee a little bit of an extra fruit note to it. And it just is a really, really great, well-rounded coffee with, like I said, a lot of really interesting fruit notes in it. I don't like to give away, I like people to discover on their own and then, you know, tell me what they're tasting in it. But it's a very, very interesting, delicious cup of coffee. I think
very nice.
It sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I like the tagline at the very end when you on your page, your website. It says as exotic as the ocelot, dwarf, jaguar, or as Tim pronounces it, jaguar.
Jaguar. I'll be honest, I was surprised you said ocelot correctly.
Oh, stop it. It wasn't food.
That's true.
I can't pronounce any food.
It shouldn't be food anyway.
Yeah, really. Oh, my goodness. Well, hey, Chris, real quick, I got to ask, because everybody's going to be wondering, I'm sure. Food and Wine. Are you guys going to be making an appearance at Food and Wine this year?
We are. My trusty partner, Miguel, will be doing the one weekend, I think it's now called Back to the Basics, where he'll do a little, I believe, from seed to cup presentation. Joffrey's themselves, now I wish I could share more with you. There's a new section that's opening up. It's in Epcot, of course, like the rest of the festival. It's going to be over by, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of Test Track or Emissions, you know, that area, general area. Mm-hmm. It's going to be an outdoor kind of an alleyway that you walk through, and there's going to be some interactive displays going on there. I'm actually having a meeting tomorrow with WDI to brainstorm about what they're going to allow me to do, because I always try to make it as interesting as I can. They're not going to let me bring my gas-fired roaster. I've already begged and they said no.
Oh.
So I got to figure out how I can beat the system and maybe... because you know me, I'm going to push the limit.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
How am I supposed to do this if I can't roast?
There you go.
That does require some heat.
I'm going to do my best to make it as interesting and interactive as possible. I will have some real-life props. I don't like to give away secrets, but there will be a real coffee tree.
Ooh.
There will be some ground, of course, green coffee beans, some roasting coffee beans, and my plants at home are just bloomed, so I have some real baby coffee.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Some of my producers over in Origin to send me something, but I want to make it as interesting and interactive as I possibly can. But that'll be going on for the whole festival. That outdoor. Miguel's one weekend for his demonstrations, and then this will be something ongoing for the whole festival, where at certain times, which will be advertised, either myself, Miguel, or one of our other junior roastmasters or cast members will be in there manning the booth and explaining whatever it is that I come up with over the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Very cool.
That's fantastic.
It should be fun. It's the first time, so I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be. But I always try to push the limit and get as much as I can out of it. Get as much of a bang for our buck as we possibly can, and then make it fun and interesting for the guests at the same time.
Absolutely. I'm sure it will be. I can't wait to hear about it, and we'll have to have Chris back on after food and wine, Tim.
Absolutely. See how things went, and
yeah. As soon as as soon as we know exactly what and where it's going to be, I'd be happy to share it with you, so guests don't get lost trying to find it.
Sounds like a date.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely. And don't forget, guys, Looper Nation, don't forget, get those K-Cups because they're on sale right now, 15% off.
And I believe the code is K-Cup.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. You're right, Tim.
I know I'm right. Thank you.
Don't forget to pick up some of that new Honduras La Gloria.
Oh.
That sounds fantastic.
It does.
It has something to do with an ocelot.
An ocelot. I don't think it's ocelot flavored.
Not ocelot.
And I don't believe the beans passed through the ocelot, so I think we're good to go.
No.
No.
Don't even. We're not going there again. And check out Tea Traders Cafe by Joffrey's Coffee and Tea right across from the boathouse. So, Tim.
Yes.
I think that's all I've got for Chris.
Oh, Chris, thank you again. Thanks so much for being on the show.
It's always a pleasure, gentlemen.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Scott. You can find me on Twitter, ResortLoopTim, at Facebook at Tim ResortLoop Scott, and at that website, ResortLoop.com.
I'm ResortLoop Bob on the Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget Facebook.com/ResortLoop. Rate us on iTunes. We just had a couple of more ratings, which we appreciate. And Tim, where else can they listen?
You can always find us over on the Stitcher. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Go brew some coffee or tea. This has been the Gateway to the Magic.
See you, everybody.